Hey guys, I'm Orbit and welcome back to another episode of World Builder Wednesdays. We may be a little bit light on news this week, but our central focus today is our interview with creator Violet Pixels, an architect on LEGO World Builder who's behind one of my favorite Ninjago spin-off worlds and who also has another awesome original world that she may be submitting to this year's Pitchfest. Speaking of Pitchfest, submissions closed last Wednesday and we're super excited to review all of them. I'm very happy to tell you guys that we will be announcing the 12 semi-finalist worlds on Monday, July 25th, so stay tuned for that, and I hope that your world makes it through. Hopefully you got to attend our very first LEGO World Builder Writers Room session last week for Andrew and the Unnatural, another world created by one of our favorite architects on the platform, Mr. Fang 2, the creator behind LEGO Clash. Our first writer's room went off without a hitch. It was a really great, fun, collaborative experience, and we hope to do more of these in the future. So please check out the writer's room channel on our Discord server to stay tuned for more events like that, and I really hope to see more of you participate in them in the future. Don't forget, you will have to register for them on Zoom, and unfortunately we can't post the playback recording of the Andrew and the Unnatural session. But again, we will be having more in the future, and they will be open to anyone age 18 or over.
Hey everyone, I'm here with Violet, an architect on LEGO World Builder. She participated in our She Builds Worlds campaign in March of 2022, and I really love her worlds and everything about her. So how are you doing today?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good as well. We're actually recording this on the day that LegoCon was happening. So it's been pretty busy. It's been a busy day for LEGO fans. And so I wanted to ask you first off about your Ninjago spin-off world, Violet Legacy. It follows Pixel, who is, I think, one of the most underserved characters in LEGO Ninjago. For years, I was wondering why they weren't doing more with her. So I'd really love to see a spin-off story about her. So can you talk a little bit about your world and, kind of what journey it sends Pixel on?
Yeah, so Violet Legacy was born from the idea that, yes, Pixel is incredibly underrated. But we know in Season 7, Hands of Time, that she becomes Samurai X, and we don't really know how that happened, what the process was about her kind of becoming that. And for me, I think Pixel is a character that represents change, positive change. She goes from like this android that doesn't really know a lot, very stiff, very clueless about the outside world, to someone who kind of takes control of her own destiny and becomes the person that she wants to be. But the show doesn't really give us a timeline about how that happens and how that changes. So I thought that I would kind of go into that and figure out what kind of journey that she goes on. So it's a physical journey as she goes to kind of prepare the Samurai X suit, make it her own thing, and then kind of become a hero, but also an emotional journey where she's kind of figuring out, who am I right now? Why am I not happy with who I am? And, how can I become the person that I want to be? So it's a journey of self-discovery as much as it is a physical journey. And I don't know, I just thought that a little bit of character development and focus for Pixel would be great. So that was kind of my motive behind that.
I think that it sounds like a very necessary story. I really like, that kind of theme of change. And so while I love Violet Legacy, what I really wanted to ask you about today was an original world of yours, Recondite, which you have submitted for Pitchfest 2022. So can you tell me what it's about? Is that theme of change carried through the characters there as well?
The themes are different for Recondite. So Recondite was born from some brainstorming that I did. My thought process for Pitchfest this year was, how can I create something that's unique, fresh, that hasn't really been done before? And as I'm looking at like different genres that I can study and do potentially, I realized that LEGO hasn't done a lot with like the cyberpunk genre, which is really interesting for me because I think that has a lot of potential. I think the closest they got to that kind of vibe was like the LEGO ideas, like the Tron Legacy sets. Those are really cool looking if you've seen those. But I thought that was interesting because cyberpunk has a lot of potential for like character designs and stories, and especially sets. Like some really cool vehicles and weapons and buildings can come from a theme like that. So I'm like, okay, let me tap into this. So Recondite is a cyberpunk genre series. I want to make it hopefully a streaming or TV series. And it's kind of a cautionary tale about technology and what can happen when it's not used right, when it's abused potentially. I think that's a really relevant kind of message for both kids and adults, especially now that everything's digital like technology is a great thing, but you have to use it responsibly. And so that's kind of like the moral behind Recondite. So it's a little bit, it's very dystopian in nature, I would say, maybe a little bit edgier than most Lego themes, but I think that's a bonus. But it's basically about this big city, Recondite, the city of Radon, and it's divided into different groups of people that have varying views on technology and how it's used. And these disagreements are growing heavier, and so people think there might be a little bit of a war that is brewing. So it's about this group of teenagers, each from different backgrounds and different parts of the city, that come together to kind of prevent that conflict.
That sounds really interesting. I love the cyberpunk idea because I'm very much into that aesthetic. That's what caught me like right off the bat, like with your world banner. I really like, like those kinds of ideas. But Ninjago did do, like some cyber stuff in the rebooted season. So as a Ninjago fan and as someone that's designing your own cyberpunk, like your own original cyberpunk story now, do you think it's like similar to Rebooted? Are you doing things differently? Or like how did Rebooted like influence like what you're doing with your cyberpunk in Recondite?
I honestly didn't have much influence from Rebooted. I think Rebooted it had a lot of sci-fi and futuristic elements, but I wouldn't really say that it was cyberpunk necessarily. I think I did some research on like the genre while I was coming up for Recondite, and I think cyberpunk is a lot more dystopian in nature. It's about kind of rebellion and pushing against the status quo. And like the status quo has a lot to do with technology and like kind of resisting how oppressive it can sometimes be. So that's where the inspiration from Recondite came from. So it's different from Rebooted and just kind of like the way that the technology is used, like attitudes toward it, and just kind of like the themes in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I do like the dystopian thing. I like the rebellion. Like I'm a big Hunger Games fan, and it would be great. It would be great to see, dystopia make a little bit of a resurgence, and that is something that Lego hasn't really gone into before. They've gone into it like a little bit in terms of like the crumbling of society, but I feel like they haven't really gone into it with like rebellion. Because I'm thinking about the Lego Movie 2, which was, well, I guess that's not dystopian. It's like apocalyptic because it's like the world has ended, but it doesn't have that dystopian like underdog like rebellion aspect. And I think that could be really interesting for Lego to dip their toes into, because I really can't think of like anything like that in the Lego universe. And I feel like that's probably because dystopian stories do tend to be for a bit of an older audience. But I think that that's like just another reason why, like this would be a great project or a great area for like Lego to delve into, because you can target, like slightly older kids, like, like that kind of 10-11 range instead of like the 7 to 8 range. So are you working on any other original worlds for Lego World Builder?
As far as World Builder goes, I am not. I think I had a small idea for something else I could possibly do. I'm probably not going to get to it anytime soon because Recondite is my top priority right now. But I had another small idea for like an underwater themed world. I might get back to that one day. I'm not sure. But that's in the works. But Recondite is my top priority right now. So.
Can you switch your top priority to the underwater world? Because I'm a sucker for anything underwater.
I don't want to say too much, but it had themes of like environmental preservation and like pollution. There were a lot of, I wanted to include mermaids. I love mermaids. And I was like, if I can get Lego mermaids in there, I will. But it had a lot of like underwater societies and different underwater creatures kind of coming together to try and stop the pollution from happening. And I don't know, I'm still working out like the story, but that was kind of like the base of it.
So even though Recondite is your priority right now, are you interested in doing anything else in like the Ninjago universe? Like if there was like, say like another Ninjago creative prompt or something like that, would you want to submit to that? Would you want to do, like a different spin-off story?
If there was another prompt, I would absolutely hop on it. Anything Ninjago related, like count me in. But yeah, if that opportunity ever came around, I would definitely hop on it. And then as far as like non-world builder things, I have a lot of Ninjago fan projects. I love to write. Aside from drawing and creating character designs, I love to write and tell stories. So I had a lot of like fan-made Ninjago projects planned, like fan-made seasons. Those are really popular in the fan community just because it's so easy with like the format Ninjago has, just be able to make your own fan season and kind of insert that in the show's timeline. So I have like 2 or 3 of those planned with like original characters, new characters, and like a next generation type thing. So I've been creating like character designs and outfits for that in my free time. So that's like my involvement in the Ninjago community currently.
I'm really glad to hear that, you're doing so much. I would love to see another spin-off world from you. Yeah, I'm going to be watching your space on Lego World Builder to see what other worlds you come up with. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us for this interview today. Good luck with your Pitchfest submission. I really hope you make it through.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Definitely. And if you get another world up anytime soon, we'll have to get you back on the show.
Gotcha.
Well, that about does it for this week's episode of World Builder Wednesdays. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed that interview with the awesome Violet, and stay tuned for more news from across the LEGO World Builder universe coming soon. Bye for now.